This is the Best Health Podcast, brought to you by Wake Forest Baptist Health in partnership with MedCost.
All right, good day. Welcome everyone to the latest episode of the Best Health Podcast. This is Justin Gomez with Wake Forest Baptist Health. And we have two guests on today's podcast. And this is part of our continuing series of offering podcasts that hopefully people listening will find helpful during the COVID-19 coronavirus crisis. And so this podcast episode is an extension of this series that we're doing. And I have two really good, smart, informative guests that are going to help me today. And I'm going to ask questions and they're going to provide the expert feedback. So that's going to be good for everyone listening. As I do with each of these podcasts, I do just want at the top of the episode refer people back if they have general COVID-19 questions or they're looking for general information, FAQs, clinic changes, visitor restriction changes. Any and all of that information is housed at our Wake Forest Baptist Health COVID-19 resource page at wakehealth.edu/coronavirus. So people can also call 336-70-COVID if they would like to speak to someone over the telephone. So people are free to visit those sites. All of these podcasts that we're doing will be housed on that site as well, and also available wherever people find their podcasts on their mobile or smart device. So I do want to introduce and bring in our two guests today. The first one is Dr. Ellen Joan E.J. Essic. She is one of our PhD. She's currently part of the Addiction Research and Clinical Health Program, which is through the Department of Surgery Trauma at the Wake Forest School of Medicine. So she has been a practicing counselor for over 30 years, both here in the continental United States and Alaska. That's interesting. Maybe we'll ask her about Alaska. She's the past president of the International Association of Addiction and Offender Counselors. So welcome, Doctor. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Good. And our other guest is Dr. Laura Veach, and she is with the Wake Forest Graduate School in Biomedical Sciences. She's currently the co-director for the Wake Forest University Addiction Research and Clinical Health Program. So welcome, Dr. Veach. How are you?
Great. Good to be here. Thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us, both of you. I know that, your schedules are probably a little more hectic or out of whack these days, like a lot of ours. So thank you for taking time. And, we're going to be talking today about healthy coping, alcohol and your immune system, which you might not know, just offering some advice and some practical tips for people to help with that coping in a healthy way and avoiding things like risky drinking. So these two doctors are going to help us along the way, and there are resources available on this topic, and you can look up their profiles as well on wakehealth.edu if you go to the website. I guess to start off, Dr. Essic, we're all at a higher state of stress on some level here. Just our normal lives, quote unquote normal lives, have been turned upside down to some degree. Our schedules, a lot of us are virtually working, or some of us are out of work and looking for work right now. Kids are at home doing virtual learning. So there's this potentially heightened level of stress. And, maybe people have heard over time that stress can impact a variety of things with your body, physically, emotionally, physiologically, including the immune system. So can stress really impact your immune system?
It really can. And one of the things that I wanted to give you was a definition, and this was just from Wikipedia, but as I was thinking about it, just thinking about what stressors actually are. And, we think about all the ways we get stressed, but when I looked it up, the definition seemed really apropos because what it said was a stressor is a chemical or biological agent, environmental condition, external stimulus, or an event seen as causing stress to an organism. Mm-hmm. Psychologically speaking, a stressor can be events or environments that individuals might consider demanding, challenging, or threatening individual safety. And it seemed to me that that was quite appropriate for what we're looking at today.
Yes.
And what I think that we're all used to being under stress. A lot of research has indicated that just normally 75% of Americans feel that they're under either moderate to high stress most of the time. Mm. And I mean, and that's just in the day-to-day life prior to this time now. And so one of the things that we know from massive amounts of research is that stress is one of the things that plays a major role in your immune system. And it can impact your blood pressure, cholesterol levels, brain chemistry, blood sugar levels, hormonal balance. It's increasingly being viewed as a cardiovascular risk marker. Studies have shown that short-term stress can actually boost the immune system, but chronic stress, which is what we are all facing now, has a really significant effect on the immune system that can ultimately manifest an illness. It raises, I'm not even going to say what these are, chemicals that can actually suppress our immune system. Mm-hmm. And just as we're thinking about how to take care of ourselves, we felt like this was a really important topic to talk about.
Yeah, I agree. I'm glad that we're discussing and glad you all are able to offer this really good insight. So, as we go through lives and, maybe people have seen a funny meme on social media or kind of maybe their friends have been kind of texting back and forth, in kind of a joking way. But for some people, there is a connection that they make with stress and alcohol use. So would you want to talk about the connection between the two and how people tend to tie those two together?
Sure, I'll talk about that, and then maybe Dr. Veach can come in with some of the ways that it really, that connection really is. But for a lot of us, when we ask people why they drink, or and I'm talking about social drinkers as well as everybody else, but it's considered a real sort of quick fix strategy that a lot of people use to relax, take a load off. People use it to reduce their feelings of loneliness or sadness. A lot of people use it just to socialize with others and to combat the daily stressors that we face, just to de-stress. I mean, a lot of people will say that when you ask. What we forget about, I think, is that alcohol is a depressant. And maybe at this time more than any other time, the one thing we really need to do is to figure out ways to lift our feelings up, not send them further down. And maybe even more important than that is that, like it or not, as Dr. Veach will talk about, alcohol has a really strong negative effect on that main gift that we have to fight off this disease, which is our amazing immune system.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Y'all know a lot more about the intricacies of the immune system than I do, but it's really, if you read about it, it's just really amazing how it can work and our body's natural ability to fight off different foreign viruses or bacteria that can come in.
It really is a phenomenal gift that we have, and we need to take really good care of it right now.
Yeah. So, what things might be available for those who are concerned about their drinking, or maybe, some of the I guess helpful tools that have gone on in our community for a while, like AA meetings. Those might be affected during this time of social distancing as well. So what are some, what's some advice or insight you can give to, um, if people are concerned or maybe have been going to AA meetings, they're not happening right now. What can people do?
Right. And this is something I do want Laura to jump in on after me, because she may have additional resources that I haven't even gotten. But
Yeah.
yeah, this is a really big thing because no, physical meetings aren't happening over most of the country right now. And those support systems, whether it's AA or NA, Al-Anon for families, CODA for codependents, or any of the other sorts of 12-step meetings that happen that are support systems for people. The really wonderful thing, and I'll probably say this several times, but thank God for the internet. Thank you, Father.
Yes.
Because what we had available before and what has just exploded since this crisis began is the way that support is being offered through a variety of different ways, through different social media sites, through the World Wide Web in many different ways. People can go on to their browser and Google AA or NA. There's a lot of electronic meetings available. I think alcoholicsanonymous.org or AA.org, NA.org, Al-Anon.org, and CODA.org, CODA.org, are all sort of those main parent sites. But in addition to that, you can go on to Facebook and type in sobriety groups or Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. There are chat rooms available for people. You said something about Alaska earlier, and we worked in really remote areas and did teleconferencing and telemedicine before it was popular a lot of other places.
Okay.
And one of the things that we had in a very limited sort of way up there, but we would do, at that point we didn't even have Skype up there, but we were doing phone, what did you used to call it, conferencing calls for AA meetings for people out in the villages that, couldn't get in because you could only fly in and out.
Yeah.
And so finding ways, and the sobriety systems have made lots of different things available. I had checked out Twitter, which I do not know anything about and don't use, but I had been able to find even chat groups on Twitter and places like that. So all of the people that are conversant with social media, they can find things really easily. And for those of us that aren't so conversant, just being able to go to your browser and type in what you're looking for can bring up a lot of resources. And all of those sites have lots of printed resources and information as well. So during these times when you can't meet physically, finding ways to connect. I mean, one of the things with AA and NA are using your sponsors. So, calling your sponsors if you need help.
Gotcha.
For people that really are struggling.
Dr. Veach, do you want to jump in and comment as well?
Well, certainly. Thank you, Justin. I think what Dr. Essick pointed out in terms of the resources that we have online, especially if I've been struggling and am in recovery from either an alcohol or other substance use disorder. We're also concerned about the individuals who may find themselves at home captured by a story, for example, that was in the Bloomberg School of Public Health at Johns Hopkins by J. Kavanaugh Simpson that started out with the title, Hold the Quarantinis. A very catchy lead-in, for a story when people are at home and have more time and are wondering, how am I going to get through this? And they don't have an identified alcohol use disorder. We're not talking about some of what may have been portrayed in the media as the down and out. These are individuals who may engage at, infrequent times in some what we call riskier drinking. And that's the other person that we want to talk to because they consist of many different people from many different walks of life, adults, and they make up about 30% of the drinkers in the United States.
Interesting.
A lot of people that we've worked with now, I've been in this work for about 40 years, have found that they didn't know some of this. And even if some of this information were available before they maybe had more difficult times, they would have made other choices. We see that with people that we work with at the bedside in the hospital who may be risky drinkers, is a term that is used. So there's lots of information about there. I do want to emphasize from some of the online sources, there's a fact check that needs to go out that, to minimize the coronavirus risk, we're emphasizing use alcohol for sanitizing and cleaning, not for drinking.
Yes.
Apparently, some people had some rumors that some bad alcohol mixes could cure the virus, or kill it. And that's only true if it's on the counter or a bag, perhaps. And that's if it's a very high amount of sanitizer alcohol.
Yeah, I've seen cartoons. Yes. I was just going to say, I've seen the cartoons about put it inside your body, it'll kill the virus. Nope.
No. That's,
may kill you.
Yeah.
So,
no kidding.
There's information all over the place, but the main person that I'm most concerned about is the person who's never sought help and who wouldn't recognize that they could maybe be impacting their health or their immune system. Sure. So I guess the question is, should we hold that drink? We now have, this whole different routine, lots of social medias talking about virtual happy hours. The ABC stores in our communities have had much longer lines and fuller parking lots. But maybe we want to just think about how our wine or martinis or beers might be impacting our health.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, that's a good kind of segue. I want to talk about how does it, not drinking can help our immune system. So what are some other strategies that can keep our immune system as strong as possible, Dr. Essick, kind of tying that back together?
Okay. Well, one of the things that we know is that everybody deals with the stressors that face us in a variety of different ways. So I'm going to talk about some stress reduction strategies that can make daily life healthier, happier, and a lot easier to manage. But given what we've talked about so far, I really want to reemphasize again the detrimental effect that even a small amount of alcohol can have on your health, especially, I'm 78, so I'm in that super high risk category. I also have some respiratory problems. And I'll talk a little bit later on about older adults and sort of some of the things maybe that we can do that are a little even more careful. But for everybody, you're the one that's going to decide what you want to do with the information that we're giving out. But the choices that you make right now really do either decrease or increase your own system's vulnerability to what is a really deadly virus. You may decide that you're not going to drink at all during this period, or you're going to cut down, or you're just going to try other things and keep drinking. That choice is completely up to the individual. But it really is important to know that there's a lot of other strategies that can reduce stress and anxiety levels and help you feel a lot more stable and calm. So I'm going to talk about a variety of things that can boost immune system function. These are things that have been proven to help lower your stress, keep your immune system functioning well, and help you feel more connected to yourself and others. And what I would say to people is that, not all of these are going to fit everybody. You make things that fit to yourself. So as you listen to these and think about what you enjoy, that you choose among the different ideas to make your own personal plan of activities that can raise your spirits, can raise your endorphin levels, and can raise your sense of what I'm calling positive possibilities, because that's something we really need right now.
Mm-hmm.
And once you've chosen that, create a routine that includes them. And then, darn it, this is the one I always have trouble with. You got to act on your routine and your plan.
Yeah.
But there's 5 major areas of well-being and health that can help our immune systems and our whole lives. And that is our physical system, which is going to include, things like exercise, diet, medications that we take, vitamins and supplements, things like that. Our emotional life, which is our feelings, and really finding ways to acknowledge what we are feeling and how to de-intensify the ones that are causing us problems.
Mm-hmm.
The mental area of our human system, which includes brain stimulation, our social connections with other people, which is a critical part of the way that humans live life, and the spiritual connections that we have, that ability that takes us out of ourselves, puts us beyond ourselves, and gives meaning and worth to what we're doing, sort of that reason we're here on earth thing.
Mm-hmm.
And those 5 areas, if we create a plan for living day to day during this time, and we include those parts, we are going to really be able to make ourselves and other people feel a whole lot better and be a whole lot better, which means we're going to be able to resist infections better too.
Gotcha.
You want me to keep going? Okay.
Well, that's a good point. That's where. So those 5 areas are key, and we want to take care of ourselves. But you bring up a good point. If we're being as healthy as we can be, that's going to enable us to help care for others should the need arise, or we're all in this together. I've seen that a lot of with the social distancing and the quarantining at home and washing our hands and covering our mouths, and I think you bring up a good point that it's you need to take care of yourself, and that's really important. But in taking care of yourself and your immune system being stronger, you're helping the greater good, the community, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do want to bring Dr. Veach back in. Dr. Veach, real quick, I know you mentioned risky drinking earlier, and people listening, some of them might dismiss that term as not applicable to them, or, they, that's not me. I just drink on this, or I just drink this amount, or only on the weekends, or what have you. I guess to better just put it right in front of our face, what risky drinking is generally thought of as what? Can you help us define that a little better?
Thanks, Justin. We can look at this similar to how we prepare our master's students to become addiction specialists in our addiction research and clinical health program here on the campus. We try to educate with how much research has been conducted over the past 30 years, particularly in the risky drinking area. It's even sometimes the term sober curious has also been reference point for a lot of youth today who are just curious about what is a lifestyle that might be less involved in and or around drinking. So it's easy to search those terms and find out more information. But in essence, from 2018, our National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism research and data shows that about 70% of adult population were drinking at least something in the past year. And of those, about 30% are risky drinkers. Another 40% are drinking at low risk levels, below anything that would be considered a risky definition. And then another 30% approximately who do not drink at all. So within the 30% of risky drinkers, again, about 7 to 10% have serious alcohol use disorder and heavier drinking. But the other approximately 20% are overdoing it every now and then. And that, if we want a specific kind of definition, which I think a lot of people like, we can define risky drinking who are generally thought of as engaging in one occasion of drinking where, if I'm talking with a male person, they have had 5 or more drinks on any one occasion, or female, 4 or more drinks on any one occasion. And this may happen not necessarily several times a month. It could be infrequently. It could be every week. It varies. So there is not one specific way to define that only, but that is a guide for helping people look at when they're overdoing it and what that looks like.
Sure. And maybe another definition that might help us is a drink. So I guess that could be some people, that could be subjective to some people of what is a drink if they're just, like, my beer only has 5 or 6% alcohol, then that's not bad. I can toss back a few, or, I guess they maybe the hard liquor is what raises the flag a little bit more sometimes, but there is kind of a definition of what is kind of a drink across the board, isn't there?
Exactly. Yes. There's sometimes mistakenly believes that, beer's, low percentage, so that's not really, it doesn't really count, but actually it does. So one drink would mean like a 12-ounce beer, and another would be a 5-ounce glass of wine, and another would be a mixed drink made with 1.5 ounces of 80 proof types of liquor like vodka, rum, or bourbon. And I often challenge friends, if you want to do something different, especially since we are in a very strong area for vineyards and wineries, when you pour wine at home, how often do you measure 5 ounces?
Right.
And pour it that way? And most of us don't. And yet, if I'm filling it all the way up to the top of the glass, I might even be having, 2.5 standard drinks in that one glass, and maybe drinking more at risk than I would know. So the guidelines currently in our country have emphasized that women and all older adults over 65 are best served if they do not drink more than 3 drinks in any one day, or a total not more than 7 drinks in a week. And for adult men up to age 65, never more than 4 drinks in any one day, and not more than 14 total drinks in a week. Some more recently have challenged even those because of additional research that women really should have no more than 1 drink a day, and men no more than 2 in any one day. And then there's more worldwide studies in Lancet in 2018 said that there were no safe levels because they saw health impacts no matter what the level of consumption was. So
interesting.
We're learning a lot about that, and it's great to be curious and to discover much of this information, because you don't usually see that, in an ad or online advertising. What looks like, just have a lot of fun and not much more information than that.
Well, so to follow up on what both of you all have been talking about, why? So we're in a very unique situation. Unprecedented is the term. Unprecedented is what we've been hearing a lot on the news or on social media. Just really unique times with COVID-19, and we're just trying to make the best of it. We're just trying to get through this time, and hopefully most of us are thinking it's a finite time of being away from work and kids being away from school and having the social distance. Maybe some people are like, it helps me get through the day, helps me get through the week. I'm gonna drink I'm going to drink this, so I'm not really going to worry about how much I'm drinking during this time. When the crisis is over, then I'll quote unquote get back to my normal life and decrease the amount of drinking that I'm doing. But why should we care about, during the COVID-19 crisis, how much alcohol we're consuming? Dr. Essick mentioned the immune system earlier, but I guess in a broader sense, what if we're, a risky drinker and maybe we don't admit it or want to identify ourselves, but why should we care?
And I think that's a question that more and more people would have. I certainly have that. Wondering about the impact of alcohol on the immune system, because we know the immune system is second only to the central nervous system in terms of its importance in our body. So to wonder and just be curious, since that's the area that I do a lot of work and research and teaching. I wondered myself, and I was even after 40 years of work in this field, very concerned about what I kept learning about the impact on the immune system for risky drinking. So it's more easy to see people who've done heavy drinking maybe have some complications, but who knew that just some overdoing it every now and then may have some really substantial impact on our health.
Mm-hmm.
So again, and you combine that with the stress that Dr. Essick talked about. So your immune system is already in distress and fighting to be strong. And then you add another, some foreign agent, if you will, if you want to call alcohol that, to your immune system too. And actually it turns into more of a health risk than maybe most people will be aware of.
So we have this I guess there's kind of a couple of factors. If we're home, we have a higher level of stress because of everything else going on, but then we also have access, potentially increased access. So instead of walking by the kitchen a few times a day or the liquor cabinet a couple of times a day, we walk past it 50 times a day. So how do we kind of combat that? It's just there in a matter of convenience, and it's maybe just easier access than we're used to in our normal lives.
Well, so exactly. It works as a sedative too, with quick effect in about 20 minutes as compared to just trying to sit still for 20 minutes and meditate. It does have an effect. You were going to say something, Dr. Essick?
Yeah, I was just going to say that what's going on in that situation that you described, Justin, is we are at loose ends. We sort of don't know what to do, and we need to relax, or we need something to occupy us, and that becomes sort of an easy fix. And so if I can, I'd like to give you some suggestions of things to put in place of that sort of wandering aimlessly 50 times by the cabinet.
Yes.
And so I talked earlier about those 5 areas of physical, emotional, mental, social, and spiritual areas. And when I was looking at this, I sort of broke things down into those areas and some of the strategies. And gosh, there's so much available when we actually start to think about it. But we all know, all of us really do know, even if people like me resist it, that exercise is the number one thing to keep your health, boost your immunity, make you feel better. And movement of any kind is helpful. And so if you can get outside, and thank goodness it's spring around here, which makes it a little bit easier, but if you can get outside, going outside and exercising, walking, jogging, working in the yard, whatever, and inside, if that's the only option that you've got. I keep thinking about people that are really stuck in apartments or in places where they don't have a lot of outside stuff. Mm-hmm. Even things like dancing around the room, hooking up with a dance class on TV. There's a lot of virtual things like that going on. And finding ways to exercise, playing ball with our dogs who've been barking. I hope you didn't hear them. but things that get you moving and get your blood circulating. Paying really close attention to diet, and just like alcohol, eating fried food and junk right now is a really, really bad idea.
Oh, man.
Greens and vegetables and more grains, healthy things, not just junk and carbohydrates all the time.
Yeah.
It was interesting when I started looking at this. One of the things that came up as a number one strategy, a lot of places, was hygiene. And I went back and took a look, and, the CDC has been saying for a very long time, not related to disease necessarily, but in terms of just staying healthy, washing your hands frequently, washing surfaces off, which I actually wasn't aware of. But sort of that basic hygiene of keeping yourself cleaned up not only makes you feel better, but it keeps regular germs away from you, as well as what we're dealing with right now. Brain strategies, things, gosh, you've actually got time to check out this hobby you've always wanted to think about, but you never had time, or learn a new language, or take a different kind of class. All of those sorts of things are available on the internet, Facebook, social media places. Using social supports, or that's hooking up socially with virtual meetings, doing games. We do a Zoom book club right now since our book club can't meet physically.
Oh, yeah.
And our work staff is doing tea time a couple times a week, just to hang out, drink tea, and chat. And one of the things that I thought that we don't think a lot about anymore is now we have time to actually do snail mail again. Sending cards, actually writing a letter, little gifts that you can send, and doing things like phone conversations with people that may not have the internet. Just ways to connect that aren't physical.
And I think Brene Brown talks a lot about that, if I could add, Dr. Essick.
Oh, yeah.
That connection is so vital to help us reduce our difficulties and our challenges of vulnerability in this time. And I would want to say more about the, brain stimulation, which is huge. And if people get more curious about their immune system, then yes, I hope they will do more reading and, looking at either webinars or just looking up some more information about that. Because right now, without some of any kind of medication, such as a vaccine or antiviral that has shown sufficient efficacy, we are counting on our immune system to do the bulk of the work to help us if we're faced with this virus hurting us and coming into our bodies. So I would echo that in terms of as much curiosity as you can, and maybe a time to slow down and take in, and absorb more. Some people say, I really want to do an inventory on who I am. I've got more ability to do that now, even if it's, spread over several weeks, not necessarily a whole day. I wanted to just add, so the immune system, in terms of brain curiosity, and I'll try not to go too far down the road in this, but in 2015, there was a complete journal committed to looking at the immune system and alcohol use. Now, certainly other substances can jeopardize the immune system as well. We know vaping right now and marijuana, smoking, any kind of inhalation types of drug use puts the lungs further at risk too. So I don't want to leave that out. But even 200 years ago, the first Surgeon General, Dr. Benjamin Rush, wrote about what he saw as problems with alcohol consumption and significant complications with pneumonia. So today, more of that research has been done. That was what was surprising to many of us as Dr. Essick and I talked. Who knew that the lungs were so vulnerable? Again, overdoing it as well as heavy alcohol use. So not just, a person who's impacted by an alcohol use disorder. So, exactly what, I won't be totally too scientific, but I will say that some recent studies in 2014 by Bala and others showed a pronounced effect, even with acute episodes of alcohol intoxication, causing toxic abnormalities. Sometimes that's seen in the gut epithelium tissue in our GI tract, as well as in our lung health. The lung is also adversely affected. Looking at people with severe drinking, heavier drinking, are more likely to develop pneumonia, TB, respiratory virus, RSV infection, and acute respiratory distress syndrome, or ARDS, as it's known. So further, to go along with that, increased susceptibility to these and other pulmonary infections is caused by an impaired immune response in people with an alcohol use disorder particularly. In 2010, the CDC and Lujan both said that people considered to be risky drinkers are 10 times more likely to develop pneumococcal pneumonia and 4 times more likely to die from pneumonia than non-drinkers. So I think particularly with our vulnerability with the COVID-19, we just wanted listeners to know that that may be information that you haven't heard before or had looked into, and now may be a good time to get curious about that. They think the lungs are particularly more vulnerable because when there's a bacterial or viral pathogen, the foot soldiers in our immune system trying to fight off that invader have a much harder time and are less able to do their job when risky drinking is a pattern. We've seen that certain immune system key soldiers, like, I'm going to use the term macrophages, which is a type of a first line of defense that ingests and clears inhaled germs to shorten, and I'll apologize to my pharmacology and physiology colleagues, but trying to make it in a way that hopefully can be understood. It's a type of white blood cell, part of our immune system.
Okay.
Macrophages act like scavengers. They're constantly roaming around searching for and destroying dead cells and foreign particles that don't belong in the body. And they are compromised with risky alcohol use, we've seen. Neutrophils are another key fighter in our infection, especially in the lungs. And they ingest the bacteria and also release enzymes that help kill and digest the invading viruses. They're very important in the inflammatory response, but they're less able to do the jobs they're designed to do. One study, Gluckman and McGregor, found that individuals with just a 0.10 blood alcohol level, which is about consuming 5 beers, showed weakened neutrophil, the one that does the fighting and releasing of an enzyme, recruitment, highlighting that alcohol intoxication impairs that kind of neutrophil recruitment into the infected lung tissues and hinders the clearance from the lung of the nasty stuff. So that's pretty important when we're looking at a COVID virus that is wreaking havoc when it's severe in the lungs of individuals impacted by this.
Yeah.
So we wanted to emphasize, if you're exceeding daily and weekly limits of alcohol, as we discussed earlier, no more than 3 in any one day, certainly no more than 4 for men. And really, best if 1 or no more than 2 could be consumed. If you can keep from exceeding that, that would help the lung host defenses, because otherwise the lungs stay sicker longer when they're not able to function as well. Even the little tiny airway hair-like sweepers, the cilia, become desensitized and no longer beat fast when exposed to inhaled germs when there is heavy alcohol use. And that term for that problem is alcohol-induced cilia dysfunction. The last thing I wanted to highlight, I know this is more technical than we might have wanted, but I think it's so important.
Okay.
Because the acute respiratory distress syndrome is referenced as a major complication with individuals suffering from severe COVID-19. It's shortened to ARDS. Research has shown that individuals drinking heavily with an alcohol use problem and or severe risky drinkers develop ARDS 2 to 4 times more often due to the immune system damage than a non-drinker. And that's what's really important, that there is a difference. And I know right now, because we're so challenged by what types of medications can help in a situation like BARDS, we really want to do everything we can to boost the immune system and protective factors. So,
well, this is a really good insight and angle that I'm glad we're talking about today. So, we're wrapping up here our time on this podcast episode. I'm sure, as you all mentioned, there's so much more information on the internet. If people want to check it out, just remember to check your sources and make sure it's coming from a reliable source. But
can I stick in one more thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Real quick,
Yeah.
Just because that fifth area, the spiritual connection, is so vital to everything, and I just wanted to sort of roll it in really quick. But
yes, please do.
Like faith activities, there are virtual church services, doing meditation or journaling, daily gratitudes, service for others, ways that we can help others virtually and physically, even at this. But the overarching thing as well that goes into all those areas, Mayo Clinic came out with a thing a while back that said choosing to focus on the positive was one of the overarching ways to be healthy. Laughter, fun, lightness of being. They said that positive thoughts can actually release neuropeptides that help fight stress and serious illness and relieve pain, as well as laughter relieving pain and causing the body to be healthier and more physically able to respond and fight off difficult situations. And the last thing I just wanted to say, just in terms of suggestions, our neighborhood is really cool, and they have done things like sent out a message saying on St. Patrick's Day, stick a shamrock in your window, and the kids all walked around with their parents far apart and counted shamrocks or counted teddy bears in the yard one day, or did virtual birthday parties. Somebody came around on a flatbed doing a concert the other day.
Oh my goodness.
And people have stuck out boxes with books and crafts and puzzles for other people to pick up. So think about ways that you can be, or taking a walk 6 feet apart. Think about ways that you can be with others without being with others close. And there's lots of creative things that are happening as people get pushed out here.
Yeah, that's a good point. We talked about this in one of our previous podcasts. I think you hit the nail on the head, that social distancing doesn't mean social isolation. Right. And I guess based on what you're saying, there's laughter to some degree is the best medicine.
It truly is. It can be.
We heartily endorse laughter. Our team of counselors and addiction specialists meet virtually and share with the help of many of us contributing corny jokes, which may sound light and trite, but it really is a very therapeutic mechanism for us to cope in a healthy way with the situation that we are experiencing.
Yeah, well, that is, I know it's definitely been helping around my house personally. So I know it can be challenging to find some laughter or joy or some lightheartedness in these times for some people, but we definitely do recommend it and encourage it for sure. So, as we're wrapping up, Dr. Essic and Dr. Veach, this has been just fantastic. Lots of really good information, and I appreciate y'all taking the time to chat with us today with this Best Health episode. And I hope y'all come back and join us at some point in the future as well.
I'd love to. Thank you very much.
And thank you for caring about our best health. We love that.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks everyone for listening. Should you need to reach out to someone about any sort of alcohol abuse or questions that you have about a friend or yourself or a family member, there's resources available on our website. I would also recommend our Faith Health NC website as well. There's lots of resources on the website, but also people you can reach out to as well. So, thanks. The suggestions that were made today, try and practice those. That actually will help, keep your immune system as healthy as possible. So this has been great. The two doctors joining us is thank you so much. And everyone, until that we gather again for our next episode, I hope that you are going to be well.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Best Health Podcast, brought to you by Wake Forest Baptist Health. For more wellness info, check out wakehealth.edu/besthealth and follow us on social media. Wake Forest Baptist Health. Care for life.